One thing that I also want to do before I move forward is that I want to clean up my car shell. Now, this might be optional. If you're happy with how it looks right now, that's great. But for me, I still find it that I can make some improvements. So I will go in my top view. I'm gonna select the faces of my car shell. Once I select half of my car, I will hit delete. Do not worry, we're gonna go ahead and bring that back in a moment. Right now, what I want to do is I want to just fine tune everything, clean up my geometry so that my car looks better. So the goal here is to have your geometry nice and smooth as it goes through the whole car. So this is also known as the topology. You never want to have too many distortions like this one, for instance, in your car, as that would make things look a little rough. Try to keep them close as possible. A few adjustments here and there will make a big difference towards the end and towards your final product. Okay, so let's say I'm happy with that. I will now go into my object mode, select my shell, go to mesh, and then go to mirror. Once there, go ahead and select the mirror axis X and hit apply. Now you should end up with a perfectly symmetrical car. Now we're ready to work with the top cover. In order for us to do this, the first thing I want to do is create a duplicate of my car shell. With that, I'll press Ctrl H to hide it. This is just as a safety net. In case I mess up, I can always go back. For the moment, I will now press number 1 on my copy, and it looks good. I think I'm ready to add more detail, especially for the top cover. So one thing that we can do now would be to make the smooth permanent. The way we do that is by going into Mesh, Smooth. You can add more definition. Keep in mind that this will also add a lot of processing power to your computer. So therefore, I would suggest keeping it at 1 for now. You would see that although I can press number 1, this would be my actual geometry. This just means that there is additional geometry between these polygons. In order to fix it, you can go into vertices, delete any unused vertices, select these 2 vertices and go into Edit Mesh, Merge. So here I see that my references are not really matching my car, so I'll just bring some of these geometry down. All I have to do would be to grab a selection and then move them accordingly. Remember that it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be close enough. I do see a detail here that we can add. And we can do so by selecting the polygons, selecting the faces, and then we can extrude outwards. Let's extrude one more time. Something like that. Select these faces. Extrude. Change the offset. About 0.1. And we can push those in slightly. Now we can use something called the Sculpt Geometry tool. We can now grab the Sculpt tools and smooth these out even further. In order to do that, go into the top shelf, go ahead and click where it says Sculpt. You're going to select the second one called Smooth, press hold down B, zoom out to see your brush size, hold down B, click and drag inwards to dial the radius of your brush. To change the options on the brush, you can go to Mesh Tools, Sculpt Tools. Let's go ahead and bring the Smooth Tool option box. Over here, you can play with the strength, the symmetry. Go ahead and select Object X. And you can also work with the scaling of the brush. Once done, you can go and select your Move tool. Press the number 3 to smooth even further. I will also select now these faces. Extrude outwards to create the fin. If you still have the symmetry on, you can always shut it off by going into Symmetry Settings, Reset. I will now select the edge move it up slightly back into my smoothing tool. I will turn on my symmetry and I will soften that curve out. Remember that to make these edges a little bit more sharper, you can always use the edge loop tool. Go ahead and clean up your geometry as you see fit. If you get these artifacts, this has to do with the geometry that is underneath. So just pull it back and you should be good to go. If you are unhappy with any of your progress, you can always smooth it or just go back to the previous version. I'm going to double click my sculpt tool, lower the strength to be pretty low, and holding down Control, I can push in polygons. Holding down Control, you can push things in, while if you let Control go, you'll be pushing things out. Keep in mind that to use the sculpt tool, you need a good enough geometry. Too little resolution will not allow you to see your results. All right, pretty happy about that. At this point, to finish it up, I'll just bring my screw, Control D to duplicate. Using your multiple views, put it in place, rotate it, and then scale it down as needed